As experts say we surge toward a coronavirus peak, Massachusetts National Guard members deployed to Sunrise Senior Living on Mass Ave to conduct widespread COVID-19 testing. Arlington leaders fast-track approval and waive a permit fee to allow owners of town restaurants to sell groceries, all this to increase business during this difficult time. Is it safe to donate blood in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic? One expert tells us how it is done. More animal sightings in town as most of us stay home, and the animals start showing up. Arlington's animal control officer gives us an update. There are 105 positive cases of COVID-19 in town. All this as Arlington stays together, apart. This broadcast was edited on April the 17th.
From McLennan Park to Spy Pond, from Poets Corner to the Mystic River, we have Arlington covered. We're your neighbors, a friend you can turn to. This is ACMi News.
Good evening, and welcome to this week's edition of ACMi News. I'm Jeff Barn. It has been 4 weeks now since Arlington has turned into a virtual ghost town. You may recall late last month, the Select Board determined a new town election day to be held on Saturday, June the 6th, between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., but that depends on the trajectory of this pandemic. Now, earlier this week at the Select Board meeting, several concerns were raised by residents on just how to marshal all the town's resources to ensure a smooth election whenever it's held. And while the Town Board of Health works tirelessly, virtually 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and makes daily recommendations to town leaders at noontime, it appears as though face masks are the new norm.
We announced requiring grocery store workers, pharmacy workers, and convenience store workers to wear masks while working. Also issuing a strong recommendation for residents to wear masks whenever they're outside or visiting those stores. And we're also asking residents of senior housing that whenever they are coming to congregate areas in those senior housing complexes that they wear masks as well. So we'll continue to monitor this. We'll continue to issue guidance as things go forward. We'll continue to determine whether or not further restrictions are necessary on a daily basis. One thing that we're continuing to monitor is the use of the bike path and other recreational paths, and whether or not, based on the intensity of usage, if it's a safe thing to keep it open. So far, we have kept it open. We are also receiving requests to give consideration to widening sidewalks, not physically pouring more concrete, but eliminating parking in certain areas to give people more room to walk and have safe social distancing from one another. And that's something we'll try to take action on this week and see where and how that might be possible to try to give people options throughout town of where they can walk and get exercise while still being safe and practicing safe social distancing.
We certainly don't have to tell you that this pandemic has caused havoc in just trying to schedule this year's town election, but most of us now have the time to check out the candidates. And ACMi has published links to interviews with most of the candidates in races like the Select Board, the Board of Assessors, Town Clerk, Housing Authority, and School Committee. All you have to do is go to acmi.tv, our webpage, and check out those candidates. Now, as we have been doing in previous weeks, this week we got the update from Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine on what the town of Arlington is doing to flatten this curve. And he says for the first time this week, he has seen encouraging signs, but it's simply too early to tell if we have finally turned the corner. Now we're entering week 4 of pretty much self-isolation and lockdown. What are health officials telling you? Are we making a difference in this curve?
So from everything I'm hearing, everything I'm reading, yes, we are making a difference. These collective efforts of people in Arlington and throughout the region are helping. I was on a call with a number of other mayors and managers over the weekend, actually on Saturday morning, and Dr. Paul Bittinger from Mass General Hospital, who we've heard from each weekend over the past couple of weeks, provided us with some more numbers. And he did show that the curve is beginning to flatten, at least in terms of hospitalizations. He still predicted that the peak would be somewhere around April 20th or 21st, peak hospitalizations. But he did see that the efforts that have been put in place are working. He's not suggesting, and no one is suggesting that we're out of the woods. Certainly not suggesting that we can flip the switch back on necessarily anytime soon. But from the data that I've been provided, it does look like all of our collective efforts have been working.
Governor Baker has expanded access to free COVID-19 testing to our grocery store workers, our supermarket workers, those workers at the Stop and Shop, the Whole Foods, CVS, Walgreens. They suddenly find themselves on the front lines, pretty much just like the EMTs, firefighters, and police officers. Without them, truly, we are all in the abyss.
Yeah, I think that's a great move by the governor. I mean, I went grocery shopping actually yesterday myself, and you can't help but notice that these are some extremely brave people. I mean, they're interacting with everybody who's coming and going.
In these times, too, speaking of those stores, I'm hearing complaints, and I've seen it myself, of latex gloves, rubber gloves, paper masks, just being strewn on the ground. What do you have any response to that? Because I don't understand when people do that, who they expect to pick up after them.
So we've definitely been hearing it. I've seen it myself like you have. And I mean, I would say clear, don't throw your trash on the ground. Have some respect for your fellow residents. Put it in your pocket, put it in your car, throw it out, dispose of it like you would dispose of any other trash.
Mm-hmm.
It's wrong. You're endangering other people, and you shouldn't be doing it.
And last question, were you pleased with the turnout last week to Mary Foley's tribute? You had a townwide call to come out and honor her, since a lot of her relatives, or most of her relatives, or maybe all of her relatives have passed on. And the town came out really in force. There was some criticism about that, but from what I see and from what I saw in the video, people were social distancing while maintaining respect for Mary Foley at the same time.
I thought it was a very nice event, and there certainly was criticism. I heard it loud and clear, but I ended up coming up to the center with my wife to watch. So I came from East Arlington up to the center, and there were lots of people, but what I saw were families standing together, but everybody else standing at least 10 to 12 feet apart. And I think it provided a moving, very fitting send-off to a person who served this country for a long time and was a pillar of this community. So I understand the criticism. This is an anxious time. I'm anxious. We're all anxious. And to some degree, by putting together that event, I understand myself and the town, we put ourselves in the role of, providing some an area for people to take out their anxiety. But I believe it was conducted in a safe manner. And I think it was a way to build some community spirit and bring people together while staying socially distant or physically distant to honor Mary.
During times like this, you're always going to see people at their very best, trying to help others in need during these frenzied times. And one way to help is to donate blood. It's essential for community health, and the need for blood is constant. I spoke to Kelly Eisnor, a communications manager at the American Red Cross, and she told me the Red Cross always follows the highest standards for safety. With this pandemic going on and with people staying home, is there a dire concern right now when it comes to donating blood?
Right now, thanks to the generosity of donors who have come out and really answered the call for blood donations, the Red Cross isn't able to meet immediate hospital needs. But what we want to remind people is that, first of all, there's no end date in sight for this crisis. I mean, this is something that's going to be going on, we're not even sure in Massachusetts. I mean, we might not even be hitting the peak until next week. So this is something that's going to be around for a long time. We're asking donors who are interested in donating blood and are able to do so to make an appointment to donate, even if that appointment is mid-April or a couple weeks from now or even next month, just to make sure that there's constantly a steady stream of blood donors, of healthy, eligible blood donors for hospital patients who need it.
Do you have a campaign currently going on to mobilize your efforts in order to get blood and make sure there is a robust supply given this crisis that's occurring?
Yes, it's been, I'm always so impressed with the people that I work alongside, but never more than in the last few weeks where they've seen just a wave of cancellations as these sites shut down. I mean, to put it in perspective, 80% of the blood drives that the Red Cross hosts are at sites like schools and churches and college campuses where those buildings have been closed to the public. So it means our crew have had to scramble to, as a blood drive cancels, to find a new location so that we were constantly being able to collect. And the other thing that I'm always impressed by, and I feel like it's really worth saying, is how much people in Massachusetts, and I think everywhere. I don't think we're a good state, but I don't think it's just limited to Massachusetts. They hear that there's a need and they come out in force. And it's really a beautiful thing to see that in this time of uncertainty where, we don't know a lot of anything about this pandemic and what it's going to mean for life in the future, to see people really just heed that call and come out is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely, and it's good. And people do. You always see the best in people during times like this. Is there something that you are short on as far as your supplies right now, whether it be a certain blood type or platelets, whatever you're looking for?
You said the magic word, platelets. If for viewers who don't know, a platelet donation is a different kind of donation where it's a product that's in blood is very specific. Platelets in particular have only a 5-day shelf life, so they are constantly in need. That 5-day clock starts ticking from the moment they're given from a patient or a donor. So, we have to get them processed and tested out to hospitals right away. So platelets are always in need. When we start to think about, what's used most in a shortage, type O negative is the universal donor. So that's the type of blood that hospitals request the most, because in an emergency situation, when there's just not time to test a patient's blood, they're going to get type O negative because they know that the body can handle it. But again, all blood types are constantly needed, and you don't even need to know what your blood type is to donate.
I saw some blood drives going on, or they were at least scheduled about 3 or 4 weeks ago in Burlington, Lexington, and Arlington. There were a few, and they were all canceled. So where are the locations around Arlington in particular where if someone is interested in donating blood, they can give you a call and say, hey, I want to help out?
Well, and what I would say is normally when I would come to an interview like this, I would say, here's a list and come to this one and this one. But
Right.
Because it's still pretty fluid, I would just encourage everyone to use either the website, redcrossblood.org, or call 1-800-RED-CROSS to get the most up-to-date list of the drives that are still happening. And again, you can make your appointment right through there. So it both on the phone and on the web, or on the blood donor app too. That's what I use. But that way, it just helps us, we can put out what's out there and what's there, so that you're not accidentally trying to make an appointment for a drive that we know ultimately is going to have to come off the calendar.
I hear you. That bears repeating. Can you please give us your website again, because we'll have that on the screen as well? Absolutely.
It's redcrossblood.org, and you can also get there through redcross.org. The phone number is 1-800-RED-CROSS. And our blood donor app is free. If you go to the App Store, Google Play, just search Red Cross Blood Donor app and it'll come down.
And again, the American Red Cross app is free, and you'll get all the information you need about donating blood and just how safe it is.
Schools have been closed for 5 going into 6 weeks now, and it is expected that the May 4th deadline for reopening will be announced, whether or not that is extended, coming up this week at the state level. Nearby, New Hampshire, the state of New Hampshire, are already closing their schools. Now, at the recent school committee meeting, talking about how they are reaching students, giving out 1,000 Chromebooks, touching base with 900 individuals on individual education plans, and providing enrichment and making sure teachers are touching base with students twice a week. Now, whether or not they're going to be introducing new learning material, if closures go beyond May 4th, was something that was discussed at the school committee meeting.
There is no way to replicate a school day. And if we were to go on in a curriculum, it would be probably more not synchronous, not in the moment lessons, but rather some kind of video or readings or whatever. And there are students that are going to have difficulty with this. That no matter what we do, May 4th beyond, we all in the district recognize that we're going to have to do remediation next year.
I think within the last week and since the first day, we've kind of come to an understanding of like, these are the different methods that we're going to utilize to maintain contact. And at the elementary level, that was the not adding on, but like really delving into the use of the Google Classroom and the Google Hangouts Meet.
It's definitely been interesting. We're essentially writing entirely new curriculum as we go, because when you say go back and reteach what you've already done, well, I've already taught that. So it's creating entirely new lessons. At this point, we're looking at between a 40 and 50% participation rate from kids, as far as kids who are going into Google Classroom, opening up the assignments and doing them. It's not always the same 40 or 50%.
I was to say anything tonight to parents who might be listening, is that we really need your partnership in this to have your child participate in these learning activities. Your role is really essential in this process.
It's good not to require synchronicity for requirements, but at the same time, because it can be difficult to arrange in a household that maybe doesn't have tons of computers and has more than one student working. But at the same time, it's been really nice for the students to have some kind of check-in, not face-to-face, but screen-to-screen, say, in real time, where they're able to meet with with the other students and the teachers. Honestly,
There are students that are working right now because their families don't have an income and were laid off, and so they don't have time during the school day either. So we know that we just have all of these different kinds of home situations that we need to be sensitive to.
Massachusetts is really becoming one of the exceptions that is recommending no advancement of the curriculums. It doesn't make sense to me to have our teachers going out and creating curriculum, as Ms. Keys described, to reinforce what was already taught. The notion that we're trying to tiptoe around this equality issue, the kids that aren't learning right now, it's terrible that the kids that they're not learning. But the kids that are learning, we should be thinking more strategically about what we want them to be learning.
Students will not have to take the Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System if they were to go back to school. Also, the school committee waiving high school graduation requirements for seniors, some things that can't possibly be completed right now, including community service and physical education. When it comes to the high school rebuild, now that's slated to begin April 20th, and that is going forward as of right now. But Dr. Bodie also reporting that work on the Parmenter School, which is related to that rebuild, will not meet its September deadline because some construction workers, even though the state has deemed construction essential, carpenters and painters are not working right now. For ACMi News, Brenda Mahoney.
It's no secret that with many Arlington residents now staying at home, the fields are empty. There's virtually no traffic whatsoever, especially along Mass Ave. And as a result of people staying home more often nowadays, there's been an uptick in animal sightings. Turkeys, raccoons, even coyotes. They seem to be reclaiming their territory. Not only that, it's springtime, when creatures roam the countryside looking for food for their babies. I had a chance to chat with Diane Welch, the animal control officer for the Arlington Police Force, and she tells me although we may have retired to our humble abodes, the animals are going to be animals. Being the animal control officer at the Arlington PD, what changes have you seen in your particular position, other than being home more, since this pandemic hit us a few weeks back?
Is it different? I mean, it's different in the fact that I'm not there physically, to help, but a lot of my calls that I'm getting, I can help people right over the phone. And thankfully, I have such an amazing amount of support from the Arlington residents, really knowledgeable cat people in helping to find lost cats, residents that when a dog is running loose, it amazes me every time. People will call and then they'll update, he's running this way, and I can, keep it accurate to the owners. And yesterday we had a lab that was running loose near Lake Street, which is of course such a busy street. Mm-hmm. I always get worried that they're going to get hit by a car. That's my biggest fear with dogs running loose, of course. And he decided to take a nice swim in Spy Pond. He was having the time of his life. And because of residents updating me, the owner was able to get over there and rescue him. And so I'm able to do a lot of that part of my job with the help of the Arlington residents. Springtime is my crazy time with babies. And it's nonstop. I get anxious actually for baby season because it's just that crazy. And I haven't been getting the calls on the baby animals. It's more, well, this wildlife calls, but not on babies, but more cats and dog stuff. So pretty much, other than missing everybody and being at home, I'm going to say my job is, it's busy. It's the same, except for the fact about the baby animals. And I can't figure out what why that is, but that's really the biggest difference.
You mean you're not getting as many calls for your assistance in that, or because you definitely sound concerned about it?
Often dogs or cats will disturb, say, a rabbit's nest. It happens all the time, outdoor cats. And they love to kill them. And the calls that I get is for help with an intervention with, let's say, a baby squirrel that fell out of the tree and now it's bleeding from its nose and its mom's not taking it back. And baby bunnies, the nest has been disturbed. And or baby raccoons, perhaps the mom, there's been instances where the mom was hit by a car, and when I went to pick up her body, I could tell that she was a nursing mom.
My next question basically deals with the fact that everyone's home now, or most everyone is home now. Arlington is a virtual ghost town. There's been a lot of animal sightings. I've seen on the Arlington list, for instance, there have been coyote sightings. There have been turkey sightings. Are the animals reclaiming that old territory that they've had for tens of thousands of years, or is it because more people are home and they have the time to look at these animals, or is it a little bit of both?
I love the sightings, particularly when people aren't frightened, you know, and if they are frightened and call me about seeing a coyote, it's my job to calm their fears, right? Because I love coyotes. We need them to keep the rodent population down, but they have pups right now. So the dads are out hunting, and we've got plenty of rabbits and squirrels for them to hunt, turkeys. I worry about outdoor cats. That is a risk that if you have an outdoor cat, you are putting it out into nature, into the food chain, if you will. They are out and about. It's no different than when everybody is working. Although I did see what was pretty cool was in some parts of the world, animals are reclaiming their spaces. And in this one particular video I watched, turtles were laying eggs all over the beaches, undisturbed. And it was such a beautiful sight to see. Like, that's something that is a big change, because people weren't on that beach. You know, they had the ability to be safe and just lay all their eggs. I loved that. But seeing turkeys, seeing fox, I'm getting a lot of calls on raccoons, and people frightened because they think that they're nocturnal. And if you see them in the daytime, that it means rabies, and it doesn't. They also have babies. So the moms are out looking for food. I've heard in other towns, there's been a bit of distemper in raccoons, which if you were to see a raccoon with distemper, the eyes look like antifreeze. It's very freaky. They look that green, yellow antifreeze color, and you cannot mistake it. That needs a phone call.
Diane, thanks so much for your time here. I know you are incredibly busy. We will put up that police number so that if anyone has any questions for you, they can get in touch with you. But I also just want to extend this, because this is the truth. I go to work every day, back and forth, and I'm always seeing you on the side of the road assisting somebody, or you're out there talking to somebody on some street corner, or you're assisting, and sometimes you're assisting other communities other than Arlington when they do have a problem. You are a great goodwill ambassador to a marvelous police force, in my opinion, the Arlington PD. And so you're a great asset to the police force. We're very lucky to have you, and I hope you're here for a good long time.
That means so much to me. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And you're right, the Arlington Police Department, I miss them. I work with some incredible people, man, and they're on the front line as first responders, and they're doing such an amazing job. I'm so proud of them. But I thank you for those kind words. Thank you so much.
And please keep in touch with us, okay? There's always something happening with animals.
Thanks, Jeff. Good talking with you.
All right, now it's time to go to our Ponderscope and a sports update. A sports update. Let's find some sports, shall we? Let's go now to the living room of Nick Antonakis and also find out the latest on what's happening in this week's Ponderscope. Gentlemen, take it away.
Welcome to the Ponderscope, your Arlington High School news, updates, and more. Share a 3 to 5 second video clip featuring anything from a hobby to a talent and become a part of the AHS Coronation compilation. All clips should be submitted to ckeller2022@spyponders.com by 10 p.m. this Saturday, April 18th. At the end, all the submitted clips will be strung together to form a video to help spread positivity in our community. So don't miss out. During this time of quarantine, consider donating or writing a letter to the elderly by visiting lovefortheelderly.org. This nonprofit organization features many different projects that are all aimed at helping to spread support and positivity to our elders during these tough times. And that's all we have today. I'm Sagar Sogi, and this has been the Ponderscope. Now I'll send it over to Nick in his living room with this week's sports update.
Hello Arlington sports lovers, and welcome to another Living Room Update. Athletic Director John Bowler had a great idea about how we can practice our Ponder pride while staying at home. Every Monday is Maroon Monday. Wear maroon on Monday to show your support for the Spy Ponders. ACMi's own Kevin Wetmore took part in our ACMi Sports Challenge by recreating his favorite sports moment in history. He reenacted David Ortiz's grand slam from the ALCS in 2013.
Bases loaded. 2 out. Hard hit into right. Back at the wall. Tie game! Big Poppy! The grand slam!
Remember, you too can recreate your favorite sports moment in history and send it to us at sports@acmi.tv. Arlington students have been hard at work this week filming fantasy drafts and creating brackets. The first draft to air will feature your favorite MLB players, so make sure to stay tuned to ACMi Sports on YouTube and Instagram so you can participate. This week's Game of the Week brings you back to the fall season, where the Arlington Spy Ponders football squad took on the Belmont Marauders in an extremely exciting matchup.
I think you're right. I think Arlington has to switch up the play a little bit, but oh no!
Not
he
this
gets
time.
through.
Callahan! He's going level! 30, 20, 10, touchdown! Spy Ponder!
The two teams were neck and neck in a game that's definitely worth a rewatch. Go check it out on our YouTube page. That's all we have for you this week. From my living room to yours, I'm Nick Antonakis.
Thanks, guys. We always appreciate it every week. Thank you very much for your time. That'll do it for us here for ACMi News. Please, if you'd like to check out more of our stories, all you have to do is go to our webpage, acmi.tv, to get the very latest on what's happening with this pandemic and other stories as well. Or you can go to the ACMi Facebook page. There we're constantly updating daily on what we're doing to cover this story for you. We certainly appreciate all those people that we've talked to so far in order to give us the information we need so we can get that message out to you. That'll do it for us. Thanks so much for joining us tonight for this edition of ACMi News. I'm Jeff Barn. We will see you next week. In the meantime, please stay safe, and if you can, help out others. Good night.
You can always check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ACMi News. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. You'll find us at youtube.com/ACMi News. If you have any news tips for us or wish to become a citizen journalist, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by ACMi Studio A at 85 Park Avenue.